Hi everybody, welcome to Unapologetic Radio, where I share my thoughts and opinions on things that are happening. Please remember that if you do not like my show, please move on. If you like my show, hit that like button and subscribe so that you will receive notification of any new shows. If you like my show and want to support, or you just want to buy me some chocolate, my Cash App is in the description. We all know that our days are numbered, and we also know that the government is responsible for it all. So here are a list of 10 U.S. states that are facing a drop in human population and a rise in costs that does not fit their pay. And for the last few years, these states have been raising their taxes all to cover up what's really going on. I'll tell you my thoughts at the end, but before I start, hit that like button.
A line at the gas station wraps around the block. Again. Hospitals/staff. Teachers leave mid-semester. And state leaders? They're begging for federal lifelines just to keep the lights on. Across the United States, the cracks are turning into chasms. In some places, one bad storm could topple entire budgets. In others, it's jobs vanishing, debt surging, or crime boiling over. One question echoes louder than the rest. How close is the edge? Because these 10 states are hanging by a thread. And if the thread snaps, it won't just be headlines, it will be home. Stick around. Number 10. Illinois. The headlines say recovery, but walk through parts of Illinois and it feels more like retreat. Storefronts are empty, pension promises are breaking, and the weight of one of the highest public debt loads in the country is pressing down, hard. How long can a state run deficits this deep before the cracks turn permanent? Illinois is already over $140 billion in pension debt. That is not a typo. It is a time bomb. And here is where it gets worse. Rising property taxes are driving families out. Businesses follow. Schools lose funding. Neighborhoods hollow out. Chicago may steal the spotlight, but smaller towns are bleeding silently, and some are on the verge of collapse. Can a state survive when it is borrowing from tomorrow just to survive today? Because without reform, without relief, Illinois might not be able to outrun what is coming next. Number 9. New Jersey. From the outside, New Jersey looks solid, close to New York City, high median income, busy highways. But beneath the surface, the warning lights are flashing. This state holds one of the highest debt burdens in America. Public pensions, severely underfunded, taxes, among the highest nationwide, and people are leaving, fast. More than 70,000 residents moved out in just 1 year. Businesses follow. And when they do, the tax base shrinks. But the bills do not. Now ask this. What happens when a state relies so heavily on commuters and corporate revenue, and both begin to disappear? Local budgets tighten. Services suffer. Schools struggle. And here's the harsh truth. Some towns are already cutting corners just to survive. Before we dive into the next state, make sure to subscribe. It keeps this research going and brings you more hard-hitting stories the mainstream often ignores. Because next up, things get even darker. Number 8. Connecticut. It looks polished on the surface. Charming towns, ivy-covered campuses, quiet wealth. But beneath the prestige, Connecticut is quietly struggling. Ask anyone who's lived here long enough. Something feels off. The state has one of the highest per capita debt loads in the entire country. Billions are tied up in pension obligations, and every year the interest alone digs the hole deeper. Property taxes are soaring, and in some counties, families are being priced out of homes they have lived in for generations. So here is the question. How sustainable is a system where the tax base is shrinking, but the costs just keep growing? Big corporations once anchored the state, but many have packed up and moved elsewhere, drawn by lower taxes and looser regulations. GE left. So did Alexion. Others may follow. And here is where it gets even more alarming. Younger residents are leaving too. In the last decade, Connecticut has seen a steady decline in its working-age population. Retirees remain, but without fresh income, without new families planting roots, who will fund the future? It is a quiet erosion, less visible than a factory shutdown, but just as dangerous. Some cities, like Hartford, are already facing fiscal emergencies. The state bailed them out once. But will there be a second time? And do not forget, Connecticut relies heavily on financial services and insurance. One market shock, one banking crisis, and the impact could ripple across the state faster than anyone expects. So the question becomes, how close is Connecticut to a breaking point? Because behind the white picket fences and glossy brochures lies a reality that many do not see. An economy stretched thin, a population in flux, and a debt clock that never stops ticking. For now, things appear calm, but all it takes is one spark. Number 7. Kentucky. It is easy to drive through parts of Kentucky and miss the warning signs. Rolling hills, coal country pride, tight-knit towns. But look closer. Some counties in eastern Kentucky are already in crisis. Shrinking populations, failing infrastructure, hospitals closing down not for renovations, but for good. And here is the deeper issue. Kentucky's economy still leans heavily on coal, manufacturing, and government aid. When one of those pillars shakes, the rest begin to crumble. As coal jobs disappear and automation replaces factory workers, entire communities are being left behind. Now ask this: what happens when hope starts to vanish along with the jobs? The state's pension system is one of the worst funded in the country. Roads and bridges need billions in repairs. And in some rural areas, nearly 1 in 3 people live below the poverty line. Then there is the opioid crisis. Kentucky has been one of the hardest hit states in the nation. Addiction has drained local resources, strained police departments, and shattered families. Combine that with a lack of accessible mental health care, and you get communities struggling to hold themselves together. Some places, like Pikeville or Hazard, are trying to reinvent themselves. Tech startups, tourism, small investments in healthcare. But the truth? It is not happening fast enough. And the younger generation, many of them are leaving, going elsewhere for work, for opportunity, for a future that feels more certain. So how long can Kentucky keep holding on without meaningful change? Because this is not just about economics. It is about dignity, survival, and whether a generation of Kentuckians will be forced to abandon the places they call home. Before we move on to the next state, make sure to subscribe. It helps us keep digging deep and shining a light on stories that deserve to be heard, especially the ones slipping through the cracks. Stick around. The next place on this list may surprise you. Number 6. Louisiana. The music, the culture, the food. Louisiana is rich in soul. But behind the festivals and riverfront charm, the state is quietly unraveling. Look at the numbers. One of the highest poverty rates in the United States. Crumbling infrastructure. And a coastline that is literally disappearing. An average of 1 football field of land vanishes every hour due to erosion and rising seas. So here is the question. How long can a state survive when both its economy and geography are eroding at the same time? Oil and gas once made Louisiana boom, but the industry is volatile. As demand shifts and refineries face stricter regulations, towns that once thrived are now fighting just to hang on. Add to that a fragile education system, underfunded public services, and a healthcare crisis where rural hospitals are shutting down. And the storms, Louisiana does not just get hit by hurricanes, it gets tested every single season. Recovery costs stack higher. Insurance premiums skyrocket. In some areas, insurers are pulling out completely, leaving families unprotected in the face of rising risk. New Orleans may be the face of resilience, but venture outside the city, and you will find parishes where opportunity is drying up. Youth outmigration is accelerating. Jobs are scarce. Violence in some urban pockets is surging. And here is the hard truth. Federal aid has patched up the wounds before, but it cannot keep holding everything together forever. So what happens when the next major hurricane hits? Or when energy prices dip? Or when another insurer pulls out? Because Louisiana's challenges are not just economic, they are environmental, structural, long-standing. And unless something shifts, unless investment matches the urgency, this state may find itself not just vulnerable, but unsustainable. The signs are there. The ground is shifting, and the next test may be closer than anyone is ready for. Number 5. Pennsylvania. Old steel towns, rolling hills, rows of brick homes that once held generations of workers. At first glance, Pennsylvania still carries the weight of its legacy. But beneath the history, something deeper is shifting, and not in the right direction. Look at cities like Johnstown, Erie, or Wilkes-Barre. Downtowns frozen in time, businesses shuttered, population shrinking year after year. Some places have lost more than a quarter of their residents since their peak. Ask this: how does a state move forward when entire regions are still chasing a past that is not coming back? The manufacturing backbone that once made Pennsylvania proud has been hollowed out. Coal jobs are gone. Steel is a shadow of what it was. And while new industries have tried to take root, the economic divide between places like Philadelphia and rural Pennsylvania keeps growing. The state's infrastructure, aging fast. Roads, bridges, and water systems are in dire need of repairs. Public school funding is uneven, and some districts are falling dangerously behind. Then there is the opioid crisis. In some counties, overdose deaths now outnumber deaths from car crashes. It is not just a drug issue, it is an economic one. Despair fills the space where opportunity used to live. And Pennsylvania's population is aging. Young professionals often leave for better prospects elsewhere, draining talent from towns that need it most. So the question is, how many patches can be applied before the foundation gives out? Some cities are trying to pivot, investing in tech, healthcare, education. But the pace is uneven. And for every Pittsburgh resurgence, there are smaller cities still gasping for air. Before we dive into the next state, take a moment to subscribe. It helps us keep spotlighting the stories that are often overlooked. And trust us, the places ahead reveal even deeper cracks. Because Pennsylvania's story is far from over, but it is dangerously close to repeating the past. Number 4. California. From a distance, it still looks like the dream. Palm trees swaying, golden coastlines, innovation hubs lighting up the night. But look closer. California is cracking. Behind the shine of Silicon Valley and Hollywood glitz lies a state struggling to hold itself together. The cost of living is skyrocketing. In major cities, even six-figure incomes can barely keep up with rent. Families are moving out. Small businesses are folding. And homelessness? In some regions, it has reached emergency levels. Here is the question: how does the world's fifth largest economy have so many people living in tents? The state's energy grid is under stress. Rolling blackouts, water shortages, wildfires getting bigger, hotter, harder to control. Insurance companies are pulling out of entire counties. In some areas, people cannot even rebuild after disasters because they cannot get coverage. Then there is the exodus. Between 2020 and 2023, California lost over 500,000 residents to other states. Many of them were middle-class workers, nurses, teachers, technicians, people who felt they no longer had a future here. And yet, the state's budget is on shaky ground. After a brief surplus, California is now facing a multi-billion-dollar deficit. Revenue from tech and capital gains has dipped, and with fewer high earners sticking around, the tax base is more fragile than it looks. Some counties are facing teacher shortages. Others are closing libraries. In rural areas, hospitals are being stretched thin. And while the coastal elites debate climate goals, inland communities are bracing for droughts, floods, and agricultural collapse. So here is the real question: how long can California sustain the illusion of prosperity when the cracks are showing in everything from housing to healthcare to public safety? Because when a place this powerful starts to buckle, the consequences will not stay contained within its borders. The Golden State is still standing. But for how much longer? Number 3. Arizona. Sunlight, mountains, wide open skies, Arizona looks like a place built to last. But beneath the desert beauty, something urgent is unfolding. How does a state grow this fast and still stand on the edge of collapse?
Here's how a doctor treats toenail fungus without a prescription. If your toenail fungus came back after using tea tree, Vicks, or a common...
Arizona has seen one of the biggest population booms in the country. Thousands move here every month, chasing affordable homes and warm weather. But the systems meant to support them, water, energy, housing, are starting to buckle. The water crisis is no longer theoretical. The Colorado River, which supplies nearly 40% of Arizona's water, is drying up. Lake Mead and Lake Powell have hit historic lows. Farmers are already being cut off. Some communities are drilling deeper just to reach anything. And here's the kicker. Growth is accelerating. More homes, more lawns, more golf courses, but fewer answers. Meanwhile, the heat is getting worse. Phoenix broke records for consecutive days over 110 degrees. That's not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Emergency rooms are seeing more heat-related illnesses, power grids are under strain, and some areas are becoming nearly unlivable for vulnerable residents. Housing prices have surged. What was once affordable is now out of reach for many. Add in inflation, and middle-income families are feeling the squeeze. And public services, schools, transit, healthcare, are struggling to keep up. Then there's the political divide. Statewide tension over immigration, voting laws, and climate policy has led to legislative gridlock. Solutions stall, problems grow. So here is the question. Can Arizona adapt in time? Or is the desert's promise becoming a mirage? Before we continue to the next state, take a moment to subscribe. Your support helps us keep reporting what others overlook. And trust us, the last two states on this list are the most shocking yet. Because Arizona is not just overheating, it is being tested. And the margin for error is evaporating. Number 2, Maryland. On the surface, Maryland shines, a mix of bustling Baltimore streets, thriving suburbs, and historic charm. But what happens when the wealth isn't evenly spread? Take a closer look. Baltimore's neighborhoods tell a different story. Poverty rates above the national average, crime rates climbing, and public schools struggling to keep students on track. The city's long decline in manufacturing jobs hasn't been fully replaced, leaving many without stable work. Across the state, the cost of living rises faster than wages, squeezing middle and lower income families. Housing affordability is crumbling, pushing many toward long commutes or overcrowded conditions. Here's the catch. Maryland's economy leans heavily on federal government contracts and services. Any cuts or slowdowns in Washington, D.C. send ripples throughout the state, threatening jobs and local businesses. Then there's infrastructure, aging bridges, congested highways, and transit systems in desperate need of upgrades. Traffic jams choke productivity, while public transit shortages limit opportunity for those who need it most. Demographic shifts add pressure. An aging population and a growing wealth gap strain healthcare and social services. At the same time, young talent is increasingly drawn to other states with more affordable living and job prospects. So ask yourself, can Maryland balance its historic strengths with these mounting challenges? Or is this state quietly approaching a breaking point? Because beneath its polished exterior, Maryland's future is far less certain than it seems. Number 1. Alaska. From soaring mountains to icy fjords, Alaska looks like a rugged paradise built to endure. But beneath that stunning landscape lies a state grappling with deep challenges. What happens when a place so vast and remote struggles to keep its people and its economy alive? Alaska's wealth has long depended on oil, but with global demand shifting and prices volatile, the state's revenue is shrinking. The famous oil dividends that once put money in residents' pockets are smaller every year. Government budgets are tightening, forcing cuts to schools, healthcare, and infrastructure. Meanwhile, young people are leaving for better opportunities elsewhere. Communities once thriving on fishing and tourism now face labor shortages and aging populations. Then there's climate change, a growing threat. Melting permafrost damages roads and buildings. Coastal erosion is swallowing villages whole, and wildfires are increasing in frequency and intensity. Transportation costs skyrocket, making everyday goods and services expensive. Many Alaskans face food insecurity or must rely on costly imports from the mainland. So the real question is, how long can Alaska sustain this way of life before it reaches a tipping point? Because when the state that's supposed to be America's last frontier starts to falter, the effects will ripple far beyond its icy borders. Alaska is not just fighting the cold, it's fighting for its future. The story of these 10 states is more than just numbers and headlines. It's a wake-up call. From Alaska's shrinking oil revenue to California's housing crisis, and from Arizona's water shortages to Maryland's growing inequalities, each place faces challenges that could change lives overnight. These aren't distant problems. They affect communities, families, and futures across America. If this video opened your eyes, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next deep dive into stories that matter.
So there you have it. Some of those states was once called home to some of us. The food for thought is, all of this was created by a group of people that wanted to claim something for themselves. I would have loved to have been there when they decided to go about a process of taking something that was created by God for everyone for free and to say, it's mine and now I'm going to sell it to you. Or I'm going to beat you to this free land that is for everyone, free of charge, belonging to God, and build a house on it and then sell it to you for $300,000. America has balls, big balls. The biggest scam there is taxes. You get to go to work every day by yourself, come home, clean your house by yourself, pay your rent by yourself. You have to get around the best way you know how. And then the government says you owe us this amount every year. The government literally charges you for breathing, yet again, free air. Well, thank you guys for watching and subscribing. If you would like to support the channel or buy me some chocolate, the Cash App is in the description. If you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Tell all your family, friends, and coworkers all about Unapologetic Radio. Until next time, be blessed.